Good morning. Hope you all paid attention to the details last week as the VIX held our lower rotational level early in the week, which signaled a downside move in the SPX, and then failing to get over our pivot told us the market would bounce as it hit 55.83. We're going to start our CoT report here for the data that came out yesterday, Friday, August 23rd. Just a quick reminder that derivatives are inherently risky and past performance is not indicative of future returns. Onto the SPX, commercials did cover their short position and flip back to long now. Nowhere near a signal for us, so for now it's more of the same. We'll use our correlation matrix, other index positioning, and some other internal factors that we watch closely as we plan our next interaction points in the market. Last week saw a lot of positioning take place into consolidation, but our upper rotational level that we had last week turned into some really nice support for some good longs all week long. And for our professional subscribers, we did provide daily NQ plans as well. And if you'd like the weekly plan for NQ or any other instrument, just post a request in our room. I'm happy to provide that to you. For the week ahead in the markets, all eyes will be on NVIDIA Wednesday with month end on Friday. And remember that next weekend is a holiday weekend and the desire to print a narrative will be in full effect. Currently, there's no protection for NVIDIA earnings, and that complacency likely won't last long. So be on your guard and watch for that to change, which will likely also give us our signal on what's next to come. The levels to watch this week on the ES will be rotational from 56.40 to 54.43. With a major pivot at 55.65. And yes, that's a very large rotational zone, but you have to remember that just a couple weeks ago, the VIX was over 20 and our volatility signals are still elevated a lot from where they were this summer when the VIX was around 11 or 12. So on the upper end, if we can stay over 56.40, we'll target 57.34. And for the first time, we have 5,800 in our range. Unless NVIDIA earnings are a disaster, which our current setup doesn't show as likely, our lower levels at 53.37 and 52.94 likely won't come into play as we're not likely to break 54.43 this week. On to Bitcoin, commercials are back to long this week, but mostly neutral with only 153 in positioning. So no signals here, and we'll just have to wait again for signals to develop and break out of this multi-quarter kind of balanced area. In consolidation, last week our pivot at 61,600 was good for a couple shorts early in the week before Powell mentioned rate cuts, and we turned that into a long. So we had 3 chances to short that level and then a nice long on Friday. Some minor shifts in our level this week from last, but mostly the same. Rotational between 58,225 and 66,100, with our pivot slightly higher at 62,165 this week. If we break out of our rotation, then on the upside, we'll watch 71,960, and on the downside, 54,245. For commodities, there's nothing signaling on the commodity front. It's still mostly the same with gold and silver, as well as other metals and energies. So last week we substituted for the VIX. This week we will give you a preview for NVIDIA earnings. And while we can't show all of our proprietary tools, the setup will be more clear on Wednesday, and we have nailed the last 3 earnings sessions with live trading a few times on them. And for our professional subscribers, if you want the NVIDIA levels for earnings, please request them in our room, and I will post them for you Wednesday afternoon. Usually for our trading on futures, when NVIDIA earnings come out, we trade the NASDAQ. And I can give you NQ levels that day as well to use as a proxy. So onto NVIDIA here. We don't use support and resistance or trading at set intervals, levels at certain variations, or just taking levels and doubling them. We look at positioning of the largest players in the game, as well as positioning of others, and a multi-factored approach. So for this week, we will watch for rotational price action between 131.23 and 118.93. With our pivot at 123.43. over 131.23, and our next pivot is 136.25, with our upper targets at 143.19 and 151.21, as there's a very sizable position up there at 151.21. So we will watch that heading into earnings, as that's going to likely be a key level. And on the downside, under 118.93, we will look for 115.40 to be our lower pivot, with 112.37 and 109.17 as our lower edges. Again, these will change as we head into earnings, and I'm happy to provide that to you all on Wednesday, as well as NQ levels. So if you do want to trade it after hours, you will know the big areas to watch. And I believe on our YouTube is some of the previous live trading we've done on NVIDIA for a couple hundred or more points on the NASDAQ. And on to currencies, the 6C played out well again as commercials marked up into distribution, but most of the currency signals now say the easy money's gone. So today we'll review the US dollar. This is likely a few weeks ahead of our signals giving us any clear indication. But as the dollar is factored into every currency pair, it'll be the one to watch for the next signals, and none of the other currencies are giving anything, any signals on our setups at the moment. We are approaching a 1-year max short position, and so we'll look for that to take hold as the commercials are just crushing the non-commercials, the large spec that are very low on the dollar, and dropping it aggressively. The setup in the past has been to get max net short and then cover into the capitulation move. So as we're going down, we'll wait to see the signals develop, telling us that they have driven longs out of the dollar and then drive it back up. For this week, our key levels to see rotation on the dollar will be 100.44 and 102.019, with our pivot at 101.277. Under 100.44, we will look for a pivot at 99.97 and lower edge at 99.1648. Over 102.01, our pivot is 102.76, with the upper edge at 103.57. If you are a currency trader, you can watch these levels this week, as they will affect your pairs. For our setup, we will wait for it to develop a little more clear. But as always, trade your plan. And if you want to learn how to make plans for any instrument or equity and have access to proprietary tools, be sure to check out our website at Sticks Trading Academy for our upcoming classes starting September 14th. Have a great weekend and a great week of trading ahead, guys.